Anybody recognize this tune? Karev yom asher hu lo yom velo laila. Karev yom, karev yom asher hu lo yom velo laila. Ta'ir, ta'ir, ka'oyom chashchat, chashchat laila. Ta'ir, 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 ka'oyom chashchat laila. So some of you recognize this tune and know the words. And for some of you, this might be new and maybe even strange. Good. This, if that was a nigun of possibilities, this is the song about strange. Have you ever felt or recently felt like a stranger? I'm seeing a lot of heads. Maybe right now. And when we say, oh, don't be a stranger. So actually tonight I want to invite us to dip into what it's like to feel like a stranger. To experience in a real way, in a visceral way, strangeness and being a stranger. And this song that we just begun with, Karev Yom, is an invitation. An invitation for strangeness. I wasn't here this last Monday, but I saw a lot of social media posts and a lot of you out there looking up with weird glasses. Yes? Eclipse? Big deal? Cosmic significance? Looked great. I'll see the next one in 25 years. Maybe. Strange. A unifying experience a lot of people were writing about. It was so comforting and unifying to be on the street with strangers, all united by one thing: the obscurity of light by the moon, shadow. Great, we need things to unite us, including the big cosmic ones that make friends out of strangers and remind us that we are in many ways, even though it's sometimes so hard to remember, connected, like moonbeams and sun rays and all the other mycelial networks that we are. Karev Yom, a day is coming that is neither night nor day, which is what a lot of people said about this eclipse this past Monday. By the way, I wasn't here for the earthquake either, but whatever, a lot is going on in the world. And the question for me, and maybe for us, is thinking about this song, Karev Yom, a day is coming that is neither day nor night, that is going to be sung at a Passover Seder near you, maybe in just a couple weeks, is how strange is this Seder going to be? How different is this Pesach going to be than all other Pesachs? How will we bring to this strangeness with maybe strangers who are even more complicated, with loved ones with whom we are estranged right now? How do we bring to this Seder, this night of liberation, all the love and blessings, bless you, that we can? Because on some level, this song is about that time that neither night nor day, neither left or right, I'm right, here's what. No, it is about the in-between. The time that is not exactly an eclipse, but is not exactly plain business as usual. Karev Yom is a song that says something is coming that is not what you know. It's strange. It will be strange. And this is the night of strangers, remembering what it's like to be a stranger, to experience the experience of being a stranger, which isn't always pleasant, so that we are prepared to create a strangeness where nobody is a stranger. It's a night of possibilities inside the paradox which we call life. And I'm thinking about this coming Passover, and I want to say something about this hymn, Karev Yom, because it has come to me again and again as a placeholder for where we are right now. My father, may he rest in peace, loved this song, Karev Yom. It's usually sung towards the end of Seder, and by then he'd had 4 cups and a bunch of shots of vodka. But he loved it regardless, because it was about redemption. My father knew a thing or two about redemption. Yesterday was April the 11th. That's the day on which he was liberated from Buchenwald, at the age of 19. So I know that all those days when he was in that camp, he was waiting for the day of liberation, never really knowing if it's going to happen. A day that's neither day or night, not anything that was familiar, strange. And so on Passover, he would celebrate that liberation. And that colored for some years my own experience of what Passover was about. It was very much about the past. But it took me years, and we are now, for me, knowing that the past is important. But what Passover is really about is not just the present, but the future. The liberation that we need to make happen. Yes, each in our own hearts. And yes, in this country. And yes, in Israel, Palestine. But in so many ways, this invitation, Karev Yom, is not just an invitation. It's like a marching order. Can we walk towards this possibility? A word about this hymn, because I'm a footnote-y kind of geek. So allow me. Some of you are. I'm seeing some of you smiling. You know who you are. All right, Karev Yom. Where is it from? Back of the Hagata. Haggadah is a big, thick book. Don't read the whole thing, only highlights. Should you get to this, this was written in the 6th century CE, 1,500 years ago, by a poet named Yanai, who's super prolific, left a lot of poems. They're long, they're complicated, they're in Hebrew, they're alphabetical. They made it into a prayer book near you, and the Passover Haggadah. There's a bunch of verses. This one that we're singing is the last one. All the others are talking about what it's like to be redeemed, what it's like to have a miracle happen to you where you win against the odds in the middle of the night. When Abraham fought the famous war against the kings. Do you know about that? Whatever, it's in Genesis. He did that too. He won in the middle of the night. And when Jacob wrestled and became Israel, the God wrestler, know that story? Middle of the night. Queen Esther, remember her? That's only a few weeks ago. You know when she seduced the king and changed the fate of history? In the middle of the night. And Passover, remember that story? You got 10 days? Middle of the night is when that green button was pressed and Project Exodus was ready to go. Middle of the night. So that poem is about the middle of the night. It's called Vayehi B'Chatzi Halayla. And at the end, talking about all the things of the past, it's talking about the future. Yes, all those redemptions and victories happen in the middle of the night, which is neither day nor night. Is it dawn? Is it something in the in-between? And there will be a future of the in-between. And that poem is probably inspired by the words of another poet whose name was Zechariah, who lived in Jerusalem probably around 2,400 years ago. For those of you who are following Below the Bible Belt, we just spent 2 weeks with him. Can we flip the slides one more? I think he's up there. No, we didn't. Never mind. He never made it. So it's a good thing I have him right here. That's my fault. Here's what Zechariah says. In the middle of a prophecy about Jerusalem that's in a bad place. That's happened before. But he says, look, y'all. V'haya yom, he didn't say that. But he said, people. V'haya yom echad. There shall be one day. It will be a continuous day. Only God knows when. A day, neither day nor night, and there shall be light in the middle of the evening, and it will be the same. And then the water will flow from the top of the mountain top of Jerusalem, half of it to the eastern sea and half to the western sea, throughout the summer and the winter. And then there will be one, only one God, and only one name of one God for all time. You know the Shema we just sang? Shema, da, da, da. That's based on this. And so is the Aleinu that we don't exactly sing, but it says there will be a future in which there will not be your God or my God. Oh my God. No, one. For real. I know that sounds as kumbaya as it does, but for real. And in that day there'll be neither day nor night. It won't make sense. Time will be timeless. It's like a psychedelic future, minus the scaffolding, maybe. And there's this amazing vision that water will come out from the top of the mountain, Temple Mount, where now the Holy Mosque is, and it's going to go down to the Dead Sea and change it. It's going to down to the Mediterranean, change the topography of the Holy Land, completely quench the thirst, and without water, no conflict, happy days, one. That's Zechariah, whatever he's on. It's 2,400 years ago. Then comes Yanai, the poet, creates this song, and it's in our Passover Seder. A day will come that's neither day nor night. A future of the possible, where it's not you or me, and it's not the familiar. It is about the strangeness of things. So Passover night, and Shira and I, together with Ben and Naomi, have been conducting the series we call Seder. How to change Seder this year. How to ask new questions, such as, how are we different this year when we sit around the Passover table? Or, Avadim Hayinu, what new story of narrowness and oppression are we going to tell this year? Or the one we spoke about last night so beautifully, Dayenu. How do we stop the cycle of trauma and toxicity from poisoning us? When we talk about our liberation, how do we consider everybody's liberation? And this coming Thursday, we're going to talk about Lashana Haba'ah, next year visions. How do we sit around the Seder table with a possible and open our minds and our eyes and each other's hearts to the vision of the possible a year from now that could be better? Because reality begins with what we think and feel. So this Seder is a night of strangeness. I want to invite us to imagine being strangers at your own Seder, for doing things that feel strange, doing things that will feel strange to the people you're with, whether you're the host or whether you're the guest, whether you have a little baby with you or whether you got older kids, and let your inner child as well be wowed by strangeness. Eat strange things, like matzah with whatever. Put eggs on the table and write strange things on them. Do strange things so people ask questions, because this is a night different than all other nights, and this is a year different than all other years, and liberation is a big deal. Yes, I'm thinking of the hostages. And yes, I'm thinking of the people of Palestine and the Israelis and people who are Jewish and not Jewish and Jewish and human, who are struggling right now with what the hell is liberation. Can I sit around the Passover table and just have fun? Yes, and it's a night of strangeness. And we are in the liminal of neither day nor night, familiar, not familiar. How can we turn this Passover, wherever you will be, into a night of strangeness and elevation? our eyes towards the prize of a day that is a day or night that's not what was or what will be, but something else that we don't know yet. Even when we say peace, it feels so cliche. The best we got is ceasefire, bilateral or permanent, whatever you want. Really? That's all we got? Can we go higher, please? So that's the plan this Passover, to let the strangeness feel a little weird. Can we read the next page, please? Put the hagata down. It's not about that. You don't make love with a Kama Sutra in your hand. I've never tried. It's just a metaphor. Seems somebody must have. But I didn't mean to talk about putting down the hagata, but you know what I mean. I want to say two more things about being a stranger at your own Seder, making things strange, because that's how things change. So the first thing I want to say or ask is, what will you be putting on your Seder plate this year that's different? Remember during COVID, we were screen to screen. I think we put masks on our Seder plate, or something weird to signify, right? Anyone? What did you put on your Seder plate during COVID? Purell. Well, we had to. But when the migrant crisis was really at its peak the year before, we had shoelaces on our Seder plate, added to the oranges that have been there since feminist/queer. Tomatoes because of the farmers, and we had olives for Palestine. That's a long tradition. What are you going to put this year on your Seder plate? A yellow ribbon for the hostages? A watermelon to free Palestine? Those are legitimate choices. Make it strange. I'm seriously asking. Have you thought about what you will put on your Seder plate this year? I know Shira and Liz have been thinking about it. Scrap the old one. Good. I'm inviting you to think of something strange so that your kids, whatever they're thinking right now, will say, hey, what's going on? And there's some kids here. Good. Ellie, think about it. Donna, you just had your bar mitzvah. What will you add to the Seder plate this year? Make it strange. Don't go by the book. Be a stranger. Whether you're guest or host, we need to ask real questions about what it means to be a people that knows what it's like to be a stranger. And if we were once strangers, it is on us to make sure that we are not again, and no one else is either. And if we were once oppressed, and yes, we were, and not so far along ago, then what it is on us to make sure no one else is oppressed either, not in our name. It is both and. That is the neither both of Karev Yom. That's neither day, then either night. It isn't binary, day or night, my win, your win, win-win. That's the only way it's got to go. That's what our eyes on the prize is. And we don't know what that looks like right now, because most people are either pro this or pro that. And this eclipse reminds us that stuff happens that is so much bigger than us, where it's not either or. It is a both and mystery, and that's the only way to go, in my opinion. So let's be strangers, to remember what it's like to be a stranger and do less strange things to each other. Because all we want is the same thing. And so I want to end with a quote in an article that came out a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, and broke my heart. And I want to thank John, who's here, for sending it to me with the many wise things that you send. Jose Andres, who is a chef and the founder of World Central Kitchen, wrote this op-ed in the New York Times just 10 days ago, after 7 of the humans, strangers, volunteered to go and work in Gaza and feed the people, and were killed by the IDF. apologized. The army apologized for errant firing, and officers were dismissed. And in this case, some responsibility was taken, but it doesn't change the fact, and I'm not going to get into the politics right now, that blood was shed for no good reason. I want to end with the words that this man who has fed millions and millions and millions of people, some with our support, wrote in the days after. And it's a beautiful article. If you have not seen it, it's on the New York Times website. And he writes about feeding people in Israel and feeding people in Gaza and doing all he can for people's well-being. And he ends with these words. The people of the Mediterranean and Middle East, regardless of ethnicity and religion, share a culture that values food as a powerful statement of humanity and hospitality, of our shared hope for a better tomorrow. There's a reason at this special time of year, Christians make Easter eggs. Muslims eat an egg at iftar dinners, and an egg sits on the Seder plate. This symbol of life and hope, reborn in spring, extends across religions and cultures. I have been a stranger at Seder dinners. I have heard the ancient Passover stories about being a stranger in the land of Egypt, the commandment to remember with a feast before you that the children of Israel were once slaves. It is not a sign of weakness to feed strangers. It is a sign of strength. The people of Israel need to remember at this darkest hour what strength really looks like. So our strength is in being strangers. Our strength is in feeding strangers. Our strength is in remembering that we were once strangers in a strange land. And in this strange time, it is on us to make it less strange and more kind, and to feed each other at our Seder tables, at this Shabbat table, in our hearts and in our home, with the knowledge that we are all strangers here. And we're all, like Ram Dass said, just walking each other home. So a day is coming, friends. It's neither night nor day. It will be the full moon of Passover and the one after. There will be days in which we will see strangers sit together, enemies hug, former foes become best friends. Can you see it? I'm seeing hesitant heads. Let's sing this. Tonight is about little steps to be less strangers and more partners in this peace we want to see in the world, this Passover and beyond.